In the twilight of the golden age of Sriwijaya, a child was born into the royal house of the Warmadewa dynasty. His name would later echo through history as Trailokyaraja Maulibhusana Warmadewa. The name itself holds deep meaning. Trailokyaraja refers to king of the three worlds, indicating celestial favor and dominion, while Maulibhusana means he who is adorned with a crown, a poetic symbol of divine right and nobility. From the beginning, he was believed to be destined for greatness, his birth marked by auspicious signs observed by court astrologers and monks alike. The boy was raised within the spiritual and political heart of Sriwijaya, likely in the region surrounding modern-day Palembang. Surrounded by scholars, monks, and warriors, he received education not only in statecraft and diplomacy, but also in Buddhist philosophy, maritime navigation, and the sacred rites of his people. From an early age, he displayed an unusual calm and wisdom beyond his years, earning the respect of elders and the adoration of the populace. His family lineage was one of revered blood. He was believed to be a descendant of the legendary Dapunta Hyang Sri Jayanasa and the illustrious Balaputra Dewa, tying him to a legacy of kings who built Sriwijaya into a powerful maritime empire. This heritage placed enormous expectations upon him. It was said that his father, the previous ruler, prepared him for kingship not only through ritual and study, but through spiritual training in secluded monasteries and sacred groves. Legends speak of a night when Trailokyaraja, as a young boy, was lost in a storm at sea during a training voyage. Rather than panic, he meditated as the waves crashed around him. Miraculously, he washed ashore unharmed, interpreted by his mentors as a divine test. From that moment, he was believed to be protected by celestial forces and chosen by the gods to lead Sriwijaya into a new age. The royal court, witnessing his maturity and resolve, began to see him not just as a prince, but as a living symbol of Srivijaya's spiritual strength. In time, his coronation was foretold by monks through sacred inscriptions, and the people waited for the moment when the boy would ascend the throne and carry on the great legacy of his forefathers. When Trailokyaraja Maulibhusana Warmadewa finally ascended the throne, the realm stood on the edge of transformation. His coronation was not only a political event, but a sacred ceremony performed with great ritual precision. Monks chanted ancient sutras, relics of the Buddha were paraded through the streets, and sacred fires were lit to mark the beginning of what was believed to be a divinely guided reign. The new king embraced the dual mantle of warrior and philosopher, ruler and monk. His early years of rule were marked by consolidation and restoration. Though Sriwijaya had long been powerful, regional instability and growing foreign threats from rival polities in Java, the Malay Peninsula, and the South China Sea demanded bold leadership. Trailokyaraja swiftly moved to strengthen alliances and secure the maritime routes that had long been the lifeblood of the empire. He restored diplomatic ties with the Chola kingdom in India and renewed cultural exchanges with China, ensuring the kingdom's presence remained significant in the global trade network. As a devout Buddhist, he also became a patron of Mahayana and Vajrayana monasteries. His court welcomed scholars, monks, translators, and artists from across Asia. Temples were constructed and older stupas were restored. The religious capital of the kingdom flourished under his watch, becoming a magnet for pilgrims and thinkers. It is believed that he also funded expeditions to India to retrieve sacred manuscripts and relics. The economy saw unprecedented stability, and the ports of Sriwijaya became more prosperous than ever. Under his decree, taxes were reformed, piracy was curtailed, and internal corruption was punished. This led to a revitalization of trade and allowed merchants from Arabia, India, and even far-off China to travel safely through the Strait of Malacca under the empire's protection. But it wasn't just diplomacy and trade that defined his rule. It was the harmony between his spiritual vision and worldly responsibility. Trailokyaraja earned a reputation as a ruler who ruled not through fear, but through wisdom and compassion. His court was a place where both monks and ministers shared influence, and decisions were made through counsel rather than conquest. As with any long and meaningful reign, Trailokyaraja faced significant challenges. The growing strength of regional kingdoms in Java, particularly the Medang and Kahuripan dynasties, presented an ongoing threat. Tensions flared as Javanese fleets tested Srivijaya's naval borders, resulting in several skirmishes in the Java Sea. Trailokyaraja responded decisively, deploying his seasoned admirals aboard the sacred fleet. Among the ships was his legendary command vessel, the Bahtera Samudra, a sacred warship said to be blessed by oceanic spirits and ancient monks. With its appearance, Srivijaya's enemies often faltered, believing it to be more a myth than a war machine. Several times, Trailokyaraja himself is said to have led naval formations, invoking protective mantras as arrows flew and waves rose. One of the most memorable victories came during the defense of the Sunda Strait, where a coalition of rebel chiefs attempted to break free from Srivijayan control. Trailokyaraja not only crushed the rebellion, but pardoned the surviving leaders and invited them to join his royal council. His mercy impressed his people, and his wisdom further solidified his legend. But political threats weren't the only ones he faced. Natural disasters, including floods and a volcanic eruption, shook the confidence of the people. Yet Trailokyaraja responded with incredible resolve. He organized aid, rebuilt temples, and led rituals to restore balance. His presence among the commoners, offering food and comfort, gave him a divine aura that few rulers could match. Through it all, Trailokyaraja remained grounded in spiritual practice. Even while ruling, he would retreat for days into meditation, accompanied only by his trusted monks. Many believe it was during one of these retreats that he received a vision of the future, a time when Srivijaya's influence would wane, but its spirit would survive across generations. Among the many symbols of Trailokyaraja's reign, none stood out more than the sacred relics and heirlooms that followed him, especially the golden crown of Suwarnadwipa and the Karasnaga, both passed down from his ancestors. These items were more than regalia. They were believed to be infused with divine energy, bestowed through rituals and guarded by spiritual custodians. The crown of Suwarnadwipa was said to be crafted not just from gold, but from a meteorite metal blessed in India. Legends say it granted clarity of mind and resistance to temptation, allowing Trailokyaraja to remain incorruptible even in times of great pressure. Worn only during specific ceremonies and war councils, the crown became a beacon of hope to his people. The Karasnaga, on the other hand, was his personal weapon, a serpentine-bladed dagger believed to be alive with spirit energy. Forged by a legendary blacksmith sage, the Karis could sense deception and danger. It was said that when drawn, it would whisper warnings and glimmer in the presence of traitors. Many believed it to be bound to the king's soul, linking his fate to the destiny of the kingdom. To protect these items, Trailokyaraja established a hidden chamber within a newly built temple near the banks of the Musi River. Only the highest-ranking monks and royal guards were allowed near it, and even then only during specific celestial alignments. The location of the chamber was lost to time, with only vague oral traditions hinting at its position. These sacred items were not just tools of power, they represented the soul of the empire. With every ritual and every battle, Trailokyaraja reaffirmed his vow to protect Sriwijaya not just as a ruler, but as a spiritual guardian. His connection to these relics was so profound that even after his death, some believed his spirit continued to guard them, ensuring that they would never fall into the wrong hands. Trailokyaraja sensed the approach of his twilight. He began preparing for succession in a way few kings did, with patience and spiritual clarity. He summoned the nobility and monks to witness a formal ceremony of transition. His chosen heir, a prince named Dharmasena, before stepping down, Trailokyaraja undertook a final pilgrimage along the great rivers and ancient shrines of Sriwijaya. This sacred journey was more than ceremonial. It was an act of unbinding, where he released his worldly attachments and sought blessings for the kingdom's future, becoming a sage king in the eyes of his people. The transition was peaceful, and his heir ruled wisely, guided by the teachings and precedents left behind. Trailokyaraja retreated to a remote monastery, believed to be hidden deep within the Sumatra highlands. Rumors of his passing were met with both sorrow and reverence. No grand funeral was ever recorded, and some believe his body was never buried, but simply vanished in a blaze of divine light. His teachings continued to influence the royal court, and his relics remained the most prized possessions of the temple guardians. Monks continued to chant his name during festivals, and pilgrims traveled great distances just to visit places he had once stood. Thus ended the earthly journey of Trailokyaraja Maulibhusana Warmadewa, not with a fall, but with transcendence. His death marked the beginning of his legend, and in the quiet halls of stone and incense, his story was passed down from voice to voice, echoing through time. Though centuries passed and empires fell, Trailokyaraja's name endured in memory and inscription. Monuments and steles, though weathered by time, still bore his titles and praises. His vision of a spiritual empire laid the foundation for the continued spread of Buddhism across Southeast Asia, even after the political power of Sriwijaya waned. Inscriptions bearing his name were discovered as far as Thailand and the Malay Peninsula, showing the reach of his diplomacy and the reverence neighboring kingdoms held for him. His policies of peaceful trade and cultural exchange continued to influence the governance of successor states long after Srivijaya's dissolution. Trailokyaraja was often invoked as a model king by later rulers, from Majapahit to the Malacca Sultanate. His image became a symbol of harmony between worldly power and spiritual duty. Some temples claim to hold pieces of his garments or relics associated with him, drawing pilgrims from across the archipelago. His descendants continued to serve as spiritual leaders and advisors, and his bloodline was carefully preserved in noble circles. Even in folklore, his name became synonymous with wisdom and divine justice. In tales told to children, he was the king who could speak to the wind and calm the sea with a gesture. The teachings he promoted, preserved in ancient palm leaf manuscripts, were copied and studied for generations. He was not just a memory, he became a timeless ideal of leadership, resilience, and transcendence, a spirit that never truly left the land he ruled. The legacy of Trailokyaraja Maulibhusana Warmadewa can still be traced across the geography of Southeast Asia. In Palembang, believed to be the heart of ancient Sriwijaya, archaeological discoveries have unearthed remnants of the golden age he presided over. Ornaments, statues, and temple ruins that continue to inspire awe. The Musi River, once the sacred artery of his empire, still flows through the modern city, carrying stories whispered by fishermen and scholars alike. In surrounding villages, oral traditions about the King of Three Worlds persist. His name lives on in ceremonies, in the chanting of monks, and in the quiet corners of old temples. Some researchers and local mystics believe that his resting place lies hidden beneath a sacred hill, untouched for centuries. Occasional expeditions venture into the jungle, seeking his monastery or the sealed chamber of relics he once guarded. Though no definitive discoveries have been made, the legend fuels both academic and spiritual exploration. In the age of global heritage preservation, his story is slowly being revived. Museums, documentaries, and cultural festivals have begun to celebrate his contributions. Historians continue to translate ancient inscriptions bearing his name, revealing new insights into his rule and influence. Trailokyaraja Maulibhusana Warmadewa may have passed into the realm of myth, but in the living culture of the people, in the sacred geography of Sumatra, and in the echoes of stone and scripture, his spirit still reigns, undying, like the empire he once guided across the seas of history.